Or you know, even if you're
No, that's okay. You can turn it off. I mean, it's on there anyway, so it's cool.
Okay.
You can still see it. Hi, my name's Louie Chavez. Thank you all for coming, especially my friends. You know, they're here, so it's really cool. You know who you are. Kind of nervous. I don't know how really to start off, but I guess really the simplest way is we'll go back to Laredo, like Jacqueline, you know, pointed out. She's from there too, so she'll probably know what I'm talking about. Started off there. I've always done art. I was in a magnet school, Vidal and Trevino magnet school, which is great because we got out of, you know, I remember, and you get out of lunch 20 minutes early so you could take a bus downtown, and then you got like, you know, another hour of lunch. So we had like 2 hours, like, you know, lunch, you know, before we were able to go to class. So it was awesome, you know. And well, anyway, like all the classes there were just small classes. You know, if you had an interest in film, TV, music, art, you'd go into this classroom. There was a professional working artist there teaching about 4 students how to sculpt. So I had this really great sculpting teacher, Armando Hinojosa, who he did those charros out in front of the Capitol. I don't know if y'all seen him out in Austin. You know, he did this great sculpture, and so I was really into special effects and, you know, doing kind of monster makeup and stuff at the time. So he really taught me how to kind of sculpt, you know, with only like 2 or 3 other people in the class. So we had some of the best materials, we had some of the best things, and you know, it was great. So it was probably the best thing that could have happened. Of course, later on, I guess people started complaining that, you know, they were too selective about, you know, the people they were letting in. So they were spending a lot of money on the school just to have, you know, 4 or 5 student classes. So after a little bit, you know, they started, you know, pretty much letting in anybody, you know, who would have wanted to go in. But you know, my town where I come from is pretty rowdy. So if you had a chance to get out of class and, you know, do whatever, you know, you would. So it changed a little bit, and what I found in my sculpture class, I was pretty much the only one doing anything. So I had all the access to all the clay and all that and stuff. So it was kind of disheartening because there isn't really at the time there wasn't really an art scene in Laredo, you know. And you know, my buddies, you know, I had a blast with them and I love them to death, you know. But all we did was pretty much make fun of each other and you know, just drink and party and stuff. And you know, I've always done art, but it was kind of hard to share it with somebody or talk to them about it because you know they didn't care. You know, it was different. So when I moved up here to San Antonio, which was like 2002 or 3, you know, I found that there was a huge, you know, art scene here. You know, Blue Star, South Flores, and so it was really great. You know, I started, you know, visiting all these, you know, little galleries and little shows and stuff. And I met some really great people, and I'll point him out right now. He didn't want to talk. Albert Alvarez right here is one of the first guys I met who was an artist and was doing a lot of great stuff. So, you know, I just hung out with him, you know, didn't expect anything because I felt the more I talked to other artists about my art, you know, they were just like, oh, this guy wants something from me, you know, like, you know, he just, you know, he's trying to get in and trying to, after the other artist had worked so hard to get himself, you know, at a point. So I understood that, you know, I was like, you know, I don't want to be you know, I didn't want anybody to be, oh, here comes this dude, you know, he's going to ask me for some sort of opportunity, but I never did. I just became genuine friends with a lot of the people that were involved because I was just so excited that there was actually people with the same interests that were, you know, really doing some great work and pushing it out there. So, you know, we'd go up and down, and I just started meeting people slowly. What I realized is that a lot of these other artists really were kind of self-created. You know, they the reason they were so standoffish was because they spent a lot of work being rejected, you know, by several galleries, or, you know, what you would think, like, okay, well, I do great art. You think you get your degree and you go straight into Blue Star and you give them your proposal. You know, they're gonna ask you, who are you? Like, why do you matter? Like, you know, who do we know that you know? So a lot of that, you know, those were, you know, levels. And then if, you know, your art's not up to par with some of the other great artists that are bringing stuff in, you know, that's also, you know, kind of hurts too. So I took a lot of, you know, punches like that, you know, being rejected, kind of been, you know, just pushed away. So I said, no, well, I'm having a good time at these art shows because, free beer, music, there was some cool people. So after a while, I just started, getting to know some of these guys. So after a little while, I got my first show at Luminaria, the second Luminaria, which happened here. And that was great because that was run by, I think Chuck Ramirez at the time. I'm not sure, but at that point, they opened up the convention center and they made a real nice, kind of art fair, Art Basel, kind of setup. So we each had our own wall. David Almaguer here, he was in that too. So, we pretty much were able to take over 4 walls and, really showcase our work to, a national audience, not just as much as a city. So, here's one piece I did for Luminaria. Let's see. Oh. What happened? Download it? What?
Refresh.
Should I refresh it? Where are your media? Let's see. Top left. Okay, here. I'm gonna do this. Oh, this one here? This one? Okay. Oh, it's because I'm in Chris Davila's thing. That's why. Here.
What's your password?
Can you guess?
Louie Chavez, 1979.
Damn it. Shit. See it. Okay, here we go. Okay, well, this is. Yeah, let me go back to this piece here. Man, now it just disappeared. You don't see it there anymore, right?
It's down there on the bottom, dude. You were there.
Really?
Yeah, it's right there on the right.
Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah. Let's see if it goes on there. Okay. So, this is one of the things I submitted, and the great thing about Chuck Ramirez at the time is that, he really had, a lot of experience showing art all over the world or, seeing all kinds of art. So I was a little discouraged because a lot of my stuff really didn't match up to my heritage. I guess they thought, because being from Laredo and being, a Hispanic artist, that I should be doing stuff a little bit more, cultural. And, this is the furthest thing away from it. All my influences are skateboard artists, Nickelodeon when I was a kid, so things that just, I had fun doing. So I said, if I like it enough and I really, just kind of push it and make it bigger than what it is, maybe it'll become something. So I sent it to the Luminaria committee and they liked it. So this is really the only painting I had sent them, the picture. So I had to kind of build up a collection. I couldn't get a picture of the actual exhibition, fortunately, but it was really great. After that, I felt, validated. They put my name up there, and it was a big deal for me. It may not, for a lot of people that had done it already, but for me, it was really great, to have my parents come in who might have been a little disappointed that, I hadn't finished school. They didn't know what I was doing, so. Yeah, for sure. They're both in the corporate world, banking, and so for me to come up with them and tell them, hey, this is what I want to do. I'm moving to San Antonio. I'm just gonna do art. It was pretty tough. So for them to see that and to be able to see a good number of people there watching it, and liking it, and I sold a couple of pieces out of that. So, they left me alone for about a year. So that was cool. They weren't mad at me. Yeah. Okay, let's see. And this is called Gold. It's, think about that size. No, a little bit smaller than that. Homer Simpson. This is actually 3 or 4 paintings that I just kept painting over because I hated them, and then finally by accident, this kind of composition came about. I thought it was great, so I was like, okay, well, let me throw this in there. Okay.
Was that the first time you did something like that, as far as overlapping?
Yeah. I kind of thought of it as when you see somebody just layering stickers over each other, on their skateboard or fridge or locker or whatever. That's what it kind of reminded me of. So, I just felt, if you just kind of kept working with it, something will happen. As you can see all the bumps on there, all the texture, that's layers of paint that we put on there. Okay. If I just put X, it'll go back to the thing, right? Okay. All right. Now, let's see. I'm just going to talk about, I'm going to get some pictures and tell a little bit of story of each exhibition, so I don't have a linear plan. Let's see. Okay, after that, I started getting into, well, I still couldn't get into any galleries after Luminaria, so I figured the best thing to do was just pretty much create your own space, create your own opportunity. So I felt that if I could just find, some sort of, alternative space or abandoned building, maybe they'll let me do something. And, luckily they did. And, and they've let me do some great things. Like here's one I did last year. It's called Quadricep. And this is in a friend of mine, she had a studio down on the east side. And this is a fun show because it was way down, past that cemetery on the east side, so it was probably the furthest away from any kind of art, walk or anything. So it was great that people showed up. But at the time when I was putting in the show together, the person was being kicked out of the studio, or she had to leave. And it was full of stuff, like all her, just materials, So she gave me the show a year before, and I expected, okay, well, it'd be a clean, open space. Well, I get there, and she had it all right in the middle, and what she was thinking I'd do was just like push everything to the corner, and then just put up my paintings. I was like, no, I think documentation is really important, So even if nobody comes to the show, I could at least get some really good pictures to send off. So, 2 people just came to the show, as you can see, me and Jose. Yeah, or no, just one. But
somebody took the photo, so
yeah. So 3, 2, okay. But no, it was a great turnout. A friend of mine, she came out of nowhere and donated like 2 cases of liquor, for the party. So there was a good, 50 people there. So it packed up the space. The cops showed up, shut it down, because it was a big thing. So, to me, I didn't sell anything that night, but I thought it was a success because if you weren't there, you heard about it. I put out pictures, I made sure that everybody that was there was having a good time. I got this band called Jupe, who did some really great music for it. So I really wanted to set an environment to where, you're pretty much engulfed with, my vision and my idea. And this show had a lot to do with like, real 80s kind of design elements of like, I guess when you see an aerobic workout video, I've always thought that was interesting, the kind of Ren and Stimpy looking characters. So, I mean, sometimes my stuff really doesn't have a linear point, but it all comes together at the end, and then the more I do it, the stronger I feel it gets. Let's see, what's another piece? Okay. Oh, this is part of that show too. It's me. So, I just make huge things, like if if you can make it as big as you can, it gets, it has a lot of impact. So that's always kind of worked for me, just working with, just large scale. And then, people have been okay with me destroying their galleries, so it's not bad, it's a lot of fun. Let's see, what's another one? Which one? The Lucha one?
We're in the Joker shirt.
Oh, this one? Okay, yeah, this is another one. Here, I'll start with this one. Now, this one actually happened a little earlier, and this is again with my friend David Almaguer. We came up with this collaboration called Ego Boost or Alter Ego. No, you're welcome. You're welcome. And that was at that time I was doing DJ work, and it wasn't really DJ work. It was just my idea of what I think music is, like very conceptual, So, and I call myself Mickey House, so I tricked people to thinking it was house music, and it wasn't, So.
What kind was it?
You're gonna have to come to the show. You're gonna have to come to my next show. No, just a lot of sample based. Kind of. I was trying to do house music, and it just. I had. A lot of the stuff that I work with is very, very low tech until maybe like a year ago. I had the oldest phone in the world until like maybe last week. Huh? Yeah, exactly. I took a picture. It was a small Nokia that I had, and it was almost like a challenge because it wouldn't die. So I wanted everybody to know that it's been with me for that long. So, So at that time, the equipment I was using was, all this kind of, I guess the stuff that you'd see like a Bobby Brown video, I guess, really old, like, keyboards and, all that stuff. So we were doing a performance piece, and it was called Alter Ego. So David and I were gonna, my alter ego was Mickey House, and David was Danger Valentino, Zayas. And so we said, no, we'll put on a show, we'll make a little background for ourselves, and and I'll play some music, and and David put up a little kneeler, for his paintings and stuff. So it was a really cool show. This was at Lone Star Studios. So all this was my little version of the set, and I created out of cardboard. I made all this machinery and kind of like a little Star Wars kind of set. So I thought that was a cool little background. And then here's a picture of David and I doing our stuff, so you can see that old keyboard. So a lot of this stuff, people could have never heard my music, but they know I exist because I took a bunch of pictures, and I said, oh yeah, Mickey House, man, like I've had a show here once, and can I hear it? Like, no. Like, I was like, just make up your own, like, idea of what you want it to be. So hopefully I'll do something soon. But there's that. That was a lot of fun. Let's see, what did I do? Oh, also, I remember bringing a big bottle of tequila and making every person take a shot of tequila that walked in. So everybody enjoyed themselves at the end. Still didn't buy any work, but it's cool. Nobody likes cardboard. Let's see, what's another show? Okay, I'm going to talk. I'll talk a little bit about some influences. I guess starting with why I thought it's important as an artist, not knowing anybody, trying to make your mark and trying to make an impression. And I started reading up on a lot of these artists up in New York and Berlin that had to do something to stand out from all these other very talented people. One guy that stood out was this guy named Rob Pruitt, who used to do work, and I guess something happened or whatever. He just never really, got to where he needed to be. So he threw this party in an apartment and invited all the socialites of, the art scene. And when they showed up at the apartment, all it was a giant mirror with about $200 worth of cocaine, spread out. And it was just on the floor. You can see it here. It was called the Cocaine Buffet. Let's see. There it is.
That's $200 worth.
Huh? Yeah. Well, this guy's back in the early '80s, so he reading that little talking about it, he was saying that he was really surprised of how much he was able to get for $200. So he invited all these people in, and of course everybody's like, oh, that's not real coke, everybody's walking around it, and it's all these people from the museum, and he gets a couple of his friends who knew it was real to get down on their knees and, start doing it. And after that, there's a little picture. After that, one at a time, everybody started getting on their knees on the floor, and they wanted to give him a pedestal. And they said, no, let's put it on a pedestal. And he said, no, like, I need to see people, like, get on the floor, this dirty floor, and watch themselves do cocaine off this mirror. So nobody knew what they were doing, or what was going on. It just turned into this big party. But after that, he took all kinds of photos, and they were willing to, be okay with these. And this is before the internet, where you could, get in trouble with that. But he published the photos, and it became that was the exhibition. All these really kind of high art people kind of getting on their knees for his art. And I thought that was a great, one of the greatest things, because, it was kind of anti-establishment. He was kind of mad that nobody was paying attention to him. So he did this big stunt. I don't have any coke. I'm not going to do anything like that, but, I thought it was pretty gutsy, and ballsy to do something like that. And after that, he, nobody ever forgot him. And then after that, he just started doing the work he really wanted to do, which was kind of like this installation art. And here's a picture of him. And all he did was get tires, paint them white. He had an idea of, that how powerful black and white, the black and white color could be. So he did. I really like him because every show that he's done was completely different. And, from that first show they did, it really brought attention. So anything he really did was great, And, he was a very competent artist too. So that kind of made me feel like, okay, this could this could happen. If I just put enough work into it, if I put on enough of a production and a show, people will like it. Another one. Let's see. Trying to find another example. Another one of my favorites is, I don't know if y'all are familiar with Jeff Koons. No, I won't do Jeff Koons. I'll do Gary Panner. And this guy, also, just when I was feeling that my art was really silly and irrelevant, I heard about this guy, Gary Panner, who was pretty much the guy who came up with the whole conceptual idea of Peewees Playhouse back in the 80s, So I thought it was just a TV show, but the whole show was based off of this guy's art. And then the more I started researching him, he did all kinds of stuff. He did like this Red Hot Chili Peppers album. These are all screen prints. So,
Have you seen the Netflix documentary?
No, that's another guy. That's Wayne White. That was his partner. Yeah, like Gary Panter is like, but both of them did it. Wayne White made the puppets, but this guy was the guy who came up with like the background set and everything. So, I loved it because, all of it was just found material. I was like, man, this guy just filled up a room. He was out of California, and Pee-wee at the time, or Paul Rubens, saw him, and it's like, hey, man, this is perfect. Let's do something together. And they were in Hollywood, so, they were right directly in that vein. So he was another guy that just kind of gave me a little more confidence that, okay, well, here's another person who, is just as crazy and, can be as silly as I can, and put in his work and, really push it and get some respect. And this last dude, real quick, let's see, this is one of my favorite pieces. Jeff Koons.
Mine too.
He was also, just a guy who worked in museum. He saw like the people coming in and out of the museum buying all this work. He got to know the right people. He went to business school and he became a stockbroker. And from that, he gained like all these great friends, in the business world, and then decided, I'm going to be an artist, turned it around on them, and just started inviting them to all his art parties, and just started doing all this work. But the work that he's doing now is really done by a team of people. So this guy's turned, his art into an actual business and factory where he doesn't even touch it. He just, conceptualizes it and then gets a whole, probably senior class of, an art school to execute it for him. So I thought that was awesome too. That was something, that you really create out of nothing, which is pretty amazing to get something. And then his stuff sells for millions of dollars, or you can't even put a price on it. But, as you can see, just the colors, and that painting I think is at least like, 10 or 13 feet tall. It's huge. I saw that thing. And it's painted, it looks like it's Photoshop, but, that's an actual painting. So, that's another, I'm nowhere near that, but, that's just something, you really kind of look up to. Well, then a couple years after, I started doing stuff with David and that alter ego. Here's another, well, let me show you another thing that David and I did. It's called Ego Boost. This one was cool. This is at Jive Refried down on South Alamo. And pretty much our idea was that our celebrity got so big that they started putting us on these like teen bop covers, and then we displayed it out there. So you see Ralph Macchio is a big fan of us, Vanilla Ice, so that was a real cool show. And that just kind of, it really didn't have anything to sell. It was just really more something to solidify like our idea, and we had a great party. It was a good time. It was out there in the street. Everybody showed up, got some good pictures, and that was, man, I don't know how long ago that was, but that was again a lot of fun. And then looking back at this picture, I was like, man, that was, it's pretty weird. It was pretty, gutsy to do something like that. Because I'm pretty reserved. I don't like. I'm nervous now. I don't like really being in front of people. So to do this, you really have to put on this other kind of persona. And then that didn't last. I started doing all kinds of other stuff. And let's see, Mexiarte Museum up in Austin. The band broke up. This is another great thing. They asked me to do a mural on their sidewall. And Mexiarte Museum, what they're really about is Latin American art, they really have this idea of like, okay, well, we want to keep it, just really culturally relative. So they asked me, they wanted something that had to do with Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. So, the first thing I was like, well, why are you asking me? That's probably the furthest thing, from what I do. But then, it popped into me. I wanted to bring in the idea of Catholicism, without, do something a little different, and bring in some modern ties into it. So this one, La muerte no es el fin, means death isn't the end. So this mural kind of represented, I guess, the Catholic faith kind of being broken by technology and transcendence. So, this thing in the middle here represents a little IV machine, and this is kind of like the path like into the gates of heaven, but then you're kind of stopped by, technology that brought the person back to life, So I thought that was kind of cool that they let me do this during that. So that was up for about 2 years, and I did it by myself. That was probably the first mural I ever did. So, huh? No, I didn't have help, and
Were you supposed to have help?
no, I wasn't. Like, I could have gotten help, but I felt that, a lot of people asked. You even asked, you remember, like, to help, but.
And then disappeared.
No, I figured, the more help I got, from other artists, the slower it really go, because everybody has, their opinion,
Tell them how tall it is.
Yeah, and you really can't see it. That thing's huge. That thing's maybe about like 20 or 30 feet tall. So I was like this tall, like to that thing. Yeah.
No, when Louie showed me this, I was like, oh, that's nice. And then I saw another picture of him standing next to me. I was like, holy crap, it's huge.
Yeah, so it was a nightmare,
And he's tiny compared to me.
So, I'm going up on this ladder, trying to make everything even. And then that was like the most homeless populated corner,
Like 7, yeah.
Yeah, it had like so everybody, hey bro, what's up? What are you doing? And and that was cool. I'd get down, and talk to them a little bit. But, it's tough, because this is the first time a museum had, wanted me to do something. So I really wanted to deliver. So it was a lot of fun. This took me, I'd drive up from here and do it a couple days up in Austin and then drive back. So that took, a few good months, to do with no help, So, and that was, after that, I was like, man, if I could do this with no help, then, no problem, And not that I'm any faster, it's just that, it really, a lot of it, I was coming up with the idea as I was painting it, and it kept changing. So this was really cool, and they painted over it after a while, and let's see. So that was a huge thing. Another thing I did at Mexiarte was this thing called the Changarito Project, which was kind of a little mobile art gallery that kind of goes throughout around the world in South America. Started from Maximo Gonzalez. Where's he from, Chris?
He's from Mexico City.
Mexico City, right? Yeah. So he kind of came up with this project, and they had asked me to do one. So this was also during South by Southwest, which is really cool because I set up right outside the gallery, and it was pretty much just getting all the South by Southwest traffic, and from there I made a lot of contacts and things like that. So that was another great point of validation for me. Let's see, what else can I talk about? Okay, here's another painting that I did. It's called Giving to the Skin. This one's also pretty huge. So this, as you can see, it starts going towards that Gary Panter, kind of Peewees Playhouse kind of look. So this is probably the best painting I've done, and I really don't, paint a lot now. I just start, making a lot of just installation work. But, that was one thing. I was like, okay, I could actually sit down and take the time to do something, right and correctly and, clean. Because I'm pretty sporadic, if I get bored, I'll, change it up. So this is cool.
You should talk about that series, though.
Yeah, it's going to this. This series actually, I'm gonna go, it's called Future the Future. And this particular show was the first show at a gallery that I used to run. This is about 2 or 3 years ago. It was called Plasma and Contemporary. It started off as a studio at a church down in Woodlawn. A couple of buddies of mine had some studios there, and they said, hey, we got a spot open. So we went up there, me and my friend James Medrano, Supa, and, again, the place was filled with garbage, from the previous tenant, I think a ghost too. It was really weird, like, so, we spent at least, 2 months clearing that place out and getting it to where we need it to be. So I made sure that the first show I wanted to have was mine. So, and that was also, you know, I was like, let me try this gallery thing. You know, I have a great space, you know, we have a good deal, let's do it. So this one's called Future of the Future. I did these little installation cutouts. Louie says chillax. It's kind of in reference to Frankie says relax. Actually in reference to a text artist named Catherine Hamnett who came up with that. You know, people think it's the band, you know, but it was this female text artist who, you know, really came up with that, you know, that kind of, you know, image and just spread it around. So I always admired that. Let's see. So that was in, and then this is the actual building. There's Plasmo. Okay. So another thing I wanted to do with Plasmo, the gallery, was that, you know, okay, I can't get any shows at Blue Star or, you know, all these other places, so I'm going to throw my own show and really make it as big as I could. So luckily I had some pretty good friends, you know, they had some cool stuff. A buddy of mine, Kevin Rayhans, had this amazing projector that we were able to project out across the street, you know, onto the wall. So after that, you know, making this big, you know, fuss. Yeah, that was like, yeah, that's the second floor and the third floor. It was like 60, 70 feet, yeah. So anybody, you know, you wouldn't be able to miss it, you know, if you were driving, you know, and that's what I wanted to make sure, you know, I wanted people there, and if you were there, I wanted you taking pictures and, you know, document it well. And then after that, we had several shows, you know, it lasted for about 2 years, and then they sold the building, but it was a really good experience because going back to what Chris was saying about, you know, the gallery space kind of being obsolete, you know, I kind of agree and disagree because, you know, I do see people online and really buying more work online, but I feel there needs to be a presentation aspect to it. You know, it doesn't have to be up the whole month. So our shows, we just have the night. So we, you know, get a beer sponsor, we'd get some music, and we'd pretty much just present the work, you know, in the silver plate, you know, best way possible, then take it down and relax, you know, for like 2 or 3 months, you know, and do our own work. And then when something came up that was pretty, you know, I thought would be pretty fun, you know, we'd do another show. Let's see. Here's another one. This is Cold Waves. This is Supa. That was his show. So we had to both have our shows first before, you know, we could have anybody else. Let's see. Here's another show. Oh, this is another cool show I did on the window. It's called Slime Time. This had to do with, you know, fast food, you know, advertisements of how, you know, gross it could really be. And I kind of made up this fake fast food restaurant called Slime Time that served, like, you know, pink slime burgers, you know, really gross stuff, and you win a free Super Nintendo if you eat that burger. So that was cool. That was also a one-night thing, you know, or no, it wasn't a one night. It was up for the month, and those lights flashed on and on. So if you were driving down South Alamo, you'd see this thing, and, you know, you'd get into a car wreck or something, you know. So that was also a lot of fun. That was also by myself. And then we went back to Laredo, and then I met some of the artists here in San Antonio, Jimmy James Canales, which is a performance artist that was mentioned earlier, Albert Alvarez, Manuel Salazar, and who else was in that? Monessa Esquivel. And we did this show at a gallery space down in Laredo called Kitsch Art Space. And this is really cool because I think this is the first time I had heard of any kind of gallery space opening up in Laredo or somebody really trying to do something. So he was a buddy of mine from high school, so he called me and said, hey, let's do a show. So really this show was a collaboration. You know, we had some of Albert's art, we had Manuel's art, and then Monessa, she did a performance piece. I don't have any pictures of her in there, but she was dressed pretty much like this is my imagery in the back, and she dressed, you know, matching to the imagery. And then Jimmy, he did this great piece called A Vicious Rosary. And what it was pretty much a rosary made out of like the beer plastic, you know, little things. And he filled them up with Lone Stars. So pretty much everybody would get up on their knees and crack open a Lone Star and then come to the end and take a shot of tequila. So again, we're getting people drunk, you know, just to enjoy themselves. So, but you know, they became part of the art. So we had we had everybody out there. Everybody was, it was also kind of interesting because when Jimmy came up with this idea, I had just read about Rob Pruitt, about the whole cocaine buffet. So it was also, I thought it was great because it was also getting everybody, you know, for a Lone Star and for a sip of tequila to get down on their knees and, you know, do something like that. And everybody was willing to do it. You know, everybody had a good time. So that was really cool, and we got a good turnout. They were charging $5 at the door, which I thought was weird, but Laredo always has to charge, you know, for every single thing, yeah. Had to make money back. But there was still, you know, my family got there, you know, some people. Then my parents weren't mad at me for another year, so that was cool.
So on the vehicle.
Huh?
I see one with the vehicle.
The vehicle? Oh, okay, pop your trunk. Yeah, this is also real
We
important.
got about 10 minutes.
10 minutes? Okay, well, you know what, let's,
Skip pop your trunk.
yeah, I'm gonna skip pop your trunk. I'm gonna go to, I'm doing a mural right now. Oh no, wait, I'm gonna go to some Microsoft. This is probably the extent of the technology part of my art was, I started doing these works on Microsoft Paint, which is like this really low tech, you know, before Facebook, you know, kind of program. And, you know, I started just messing around with it, you know, just playing around, but I thought it was, while I was doing it, I think that's when, you know, maybe the 19th version of Photoshop was out there. Everything was just so overproduced. So I really thought, you know, this was almost old, you know, like to be working with this, you know, kind of old technology, you know, like probably something out of Windows 98. And, you know, it was great practice. You know, here's some other stuff I did on Microsoft Paint. This thing. These guys. Eddie from Iron Maiden. And then, huh? This thing? Oh, okay, this is also a thing, you know, this is a Spurs show that happened a couple of months ago, and it was a real great show. A lot of artists were in it, you know, but one thing, you know, I've always thought was like, you know, how many times can you do any kind of Spurs theme, you know, work? And the guy who was putting together was a good friend of mine, so I was like, no, well, you know, I love doing art shows like that, or group shows, because it gives you a chance to really do something different, you know, when people are expecting, you know, the same old thing. So this is my version of the Coyote. So, you know, when I brought this in, everybody was like, oh, God, you know, like, what's this supposed to be? How's anybody going to buy this? Like, no, I don't care, you know. I was like, I just, you know, I'm really, you know, halfway against the show, but to be even more against it, I'm going to bring in, like, you know, this piece, you know, that, you know, yeah, this horrible thing, you know. And look, she had a good time. Like, little girl, like,
David Robinson, show the David.
oh, yeah, and David Robinson, yeah, this is another piece. This is part of my Spurs show. David Robinson versus Batman. So that was also a Microsoft Paint painting I printed out, and I found this really great. So, you know, of course, you know, my work compared to everybody else's there was like totally off the wall. But by that time, you know, everybody knew me to do that kind of, you know, work. So it was okay. You know, it was. I was like, oh, okay, Louie. You know, thanks for ruining everything. You know, but. Oh, okay. And here's a really cool one. This was a lot of fun. This is another attempt at trying to change up, you know, the norm here. Last year they had a Dia Los Muertos altar contest, and me and my buddy Shek, we were like, hey, let's do it. You know, it's $2,000 prize. You know, so I thought that was huge, you know, for, you know, an altar contest. So we went to the meeting. We saw we assessed, you know, who was participating. So we thought it's going to be all very traditional. So let's do something like really out there. So, you know, we did this crazy disco, you know, piece, and we were leaving to New York the next day, and we had, you know, we're like, oh, you know, we're going to spend as much money as we want because we're going to win this thing, you know, no problem, you know, and so we're up there waiting for the call, and, you know, just to find out we weren't even close, like, you know, like nobody liked it, you know, and it's not nobody liked it, you know, we thought the judges would have been, you know, we were trying to figure out who the judges were, like, you know, what are they going to like, what are they going to do, you know. It just solidified, you know, how much my stuff really doesn't fit here, you know. But, you know, saying that, you know, I've gotten also a lot of opportunities outside of San Antonio, which has really also made it great. I had this exhibition up in New York City, which is probably the greatest thing and the biggest challenge I could have, because it was at the small gallery called Soapbox Gallery in Brooklyn. So they tell me, hey, you want to do this show? I was like, you know, hell yeah, I'm going up there. I don't care how it happens or how famous, you know. They're not, you know, it's just a little window, you know, facing an empty lot, you know, down in the middle of Brooklyn. But, I took the opportunity. I packed up all my stuff in a box and carried that on to the plane with me because I didn't know what to do. So that was a good adventure because I was walking like 40 blocks with a giant box full of paintings and mirrors, trying to find this place. Lost my phone, and then tracked it back like to a puddle, where I got all the cabs. So that was also a big challenge because, how, they ask you to do something like that, you're not going to say no, but you're not prepared, or have the money or the means to get up there. But I made it happen, and that was also something pretty major. Let's see. Are we okay on time? Is that it?
Question.
Okay, yeah, let's go to questions. There's too much stuff to talk about. Yeah,
Hearing
Mike.
how you're, you're outdoor, not, traditional, everybody's doing, and hearing your apologetic about it. How did that tie in or fit into what happened with that arcade mural?
Oh, the arcade mural. This is actually going on right now. This is one I'm working on right now. It's called View. It's a Christian spot, and I met Christian, at the last Luminaria and Poppy Trunk, sorry, La Gloria. So we hit it off right away. We had the same vision, and he had told me I'm opening this spot. We're gonna open up an arcade. Well, unfortunately, the stuff that was attached to it was that it turned out to already have another mural that was part of the San Antonio Cultural Arts mural program. But Christian had, bought the building. He went through all.
Let me jump in and explain what happened.
Okay, yeah.
Just so that there's some clarity. So Christian bought the building. He told me there was a mural on it. I said, "Oh, that's San Antonio Cultural Arts mural. You need to go talk to them." And so I was like, "They're really cool people. They'll take care of you. Everything will be cool." And Christian went to go talk to them. And they were really cool with him, and they were super nice, and they were like, "Yeah, let's work on this new mural." And they said, "We just need to ask our boss, Harvey, to make sure it's cool."
Current boss.
Huh?
Current boss at the time.
Oh, boss at the time, Harvey. And Harvey said there was no way he would even change like the wording on the old business on the mural, no matter what. And he told Christian that the building would be, like the mural would be on that building longer than he was a tenant at the building. And what he didn't understand was that Christian had bought the building cash. And that, he went there and sized them up and kind of was talking down to Christian. And so after that, Christian can speak up for how he felt about that.
To be 100% honest, I had never had any intention of covering the mural. Like I never did. I never thought in my wildest dreams it would come to that. And when I went to San Antonio Cultural Arts, everyone was very receptive. And I think at the time, it was a gentleman, what is it, Jose or Medina?
Osmo.
John Medina, right?
John.
Yeah, and he was super. I was like, man, these people are with it. I was like, maybe we can just change the name on the mural, because my big thing was I was getting a lot of incarcerated people, which was cool. But I had planned on having kids at the arcade, and I didn't want these gentlemen who are trying to get assimilated back to life, around these children, because the parents might get upset with me. And obviously I didn't want them walking down Guadalupe for nothing either, because a lot of them were, and I felt bad. Because one lady even told me, "Hey man, did you give me some condoms or something?" I was like, "I'm sorry ma'am, like we're not here anymore." She's like, "Well, what do you," she kept pointing at the mural, and everybody kept doing this, pointing at the mural. Because the mural was very symbolic of what Hope Action Care was.
Yeah, it was Hope Action Care. It was a building that offered STD, AIDS,
Yeah, really different from what Christian was trying to do.
But the building was no longer.
And going back to what you were saying,
like 3 years.
And so
it had been vacant.
the mural wasn't in perfect shape, so I had assumed that no one cared anymore. But I went to the San Antonio Cultural Arts, and I really thought I literally was looking at my girlfriend. I was like, cool, we're gonna do this collaborative piece. It's gonna be awesome, and anybody that Joey tells me is good people, I believe him, because he's my mentor. But then Harvey came in and immediately told me none of that was gonna happen, like nothing. And I was like, okay, well, could we just change the name? Could we just take Hope Action Care off of it? And he was like, absolutely not. And I was like, and he told me, I don't even know how long you're gonna last there. And I was like, whoa. And the thing is like, I'm from the south side and the west side, and I came to this school and I experienced discrimination firsthand for 4 years And I thought that it was over because I finally got the piece of paper, I finally got the degree. People would respect me, and it really hurt coming from another Latino man who I would look at as a father figure, and I was like, man, I expect that from people here in Alamo Heights. I did not expect that from my people. And so I didn't do anything for 6 months. And I met Louie at the Pop Your Trunk location, and I really liked his style. And we just like talked about it. We hadn't done anything yet. But as soon as word got back, the gentleman made a big post and a big hoopla, and me and Louie hadn't even confirmed anything yet.
Yeah.
And then at that point, I called Louie. I said, you know what, man? I sat on this for 6 months, and because I wanted it to cool down. I was like, you know, maybe it'll cool down, you know, whatever, and we'll work something out. But that never happened. So after the 6 months, and when they got upset, when they heard I was talking to Louie, I said, Louie, look, I talked to the people in the community, because I talked to the people in the community, and you know what? Hey, as Latino people, I know one thing, what's yours is yours. And what surprised me is that my neighbors, the people behind me, I think they all told me, that's your building, you do whatever you want. And I was like, you know what? Like, I get it. And so I told Louie, you know, just so we can prevent this from dragging out, because I thought it was making both of us look bad, because Santo Cultural Arts was bigger than this, and I'm just a freaking kid. And what is it? So we started painting over in white, and you know what I said is, okay, if I'm gonna do this, if I'm gonna paint over in white, because the arcade is a big installation piece. For those who don't know, it's more than just a business. It's my giant installation piece, representative of like what kept me off the streets in the south side and the west side. I used to go to diversions on Southwest Military instead of like breaking into houses and selling drugs. And you know, I did some stuff, but if I had a few quarters, I knew that I could hide in that place for a while. And so I wanted to bring that back. And the reason why I chose Louie is because, like what he says, his artwork is completely against the grain. And that's how I felt at the moment. I felt like everybody was telling me, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to do this. It's wrong.
Yeah, we had the same, you know, that was the great thing about, you know, to answer your question, you know, was right when talking to Christian about all that, you know, it was a frustration that, you know, that we both felt was that, you know, things had gone on the same way, you know, for a long time, and I hadn't even been here that long. So I have a lot of friends in San Anto, you know, that were involved, and I took the risk. Well, you know, yeah, people are going to be upset at me about it, but, you know, I've had my stuff painted over plenty of times, you know, and that's just the art way, you know, the artist's way, you know, things, you know, come and go, you know, if anything, they should have, you know, repainted the mural somewhere else, you know, if it was that important, or redo it. But, you know, the whole drama of it only lasted, you know, a good 2 weeks, you know. Some people were upset, but I think people saw the broader vision of things need to move on. And you know, what we're doing here is something for, you know, to better the community, you know. So, I mean, there was very little room for people to really be too upset. And all it really did was just kind of restart the San Anto mural program. You know, it just kind of woke everybody up and said, okay, well, let's, you know, really, you know, bring this back to where it needs to be, you know. And I haven't been here that long, so I knew, you know, it was run differently by different people. So I just felt, you know, what we're doing with this is going to be kind of really tie in that side of town into some of the more current, you know, art happenings that are going around in San Antonio. So, and which, you know, like Christian said, you know, people are walking, you know, back and forth every day, and not one person has asked, hey, what happened to the Hope Action, you know, carrot mural, you know?
Well,
like,
the greatest thing was that the only people that would talk to me were people fresh out of jail, which is understood. I can honestly say that now, and this was like the dream, was that students from like Lanier, right there, are asking me about it, and I'm just like so excited because that's what I wanted. I wanted the kids from Lanier and like the Foya and all the people in that area, you know, to realize, hey, you know what, that kind of looks like a place for me, you know. And so that's what we're doing, and it was just a big one.
Yeah.
I just want to add that street is infamous with prostitution and drug dealing and.
it's been making my money too, man.
So, I mean, this is I see it as, you know, a great alternative to what it once was.
What it once was,
If
yeah.
anything was going to replace this, you know, what better you know, venue.
Yeah, gangsters don't look cool in front of this.
That's the thing. A lot of people kept telling me like, hey man, you know, it's rough out here. I'm like, I know, this is where I'm from.
Yeah.
I was like, I know Guadalupe Street is. I know where it used to be. I'm not stupid. And I go, and that's exactly. If somebody would have given me the same opportunity up in the north side, I would say no. I don't want to do that. I don't care. Those people have all the places in the world to run and hide to. Tell me where the kids of the west side go. Tell me nowhere. There's no, you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, so that's why I thought this was pretty important. It actually gained more importance, after the drama, because it really was the point where, like, for me to put my money where my mouth was, like the whole time, anybody will tell you I complained about, how things were, why did everything have to be so Chicano? Why did everything have to be so based off of that kind of art? And, this was pretty much, okay, well, you're willing to, risk, everybody really not being upset with you, and painting over this mural that was really important. So luckily, nobody was really too mad at me, so it worked out. And I'm still working on it. Again, it's something, that changes and evolves as I'm working on it. So this is really the latest thing I've been working on. So that's really cool. I can't wait for it to finish. And then, going back to that, I haven't put a lot of progress shots because I really want, when we do open this thing up, I do want to attach it to an event and, really make it, something special. Okay, was there any more questions? I got tons more stuff here. Thank you.